The jungle moon of Viridian 6 was not known for mercy. Its air was acidic in the mornings, its nights freezing, and its wildlife evolved specifically to make off-world explorers regret visiting. Yet the survey team had landed anyway. When the ambush hit, it was fast. A cluster of Crowan hunters exploded from the undergrowth, their scythe-like limbs cutting through the foliage with predatory ease. The mixed species scout squad scattered, returning fire as the jungle erupted into chaos. Lieutenant Ravis, a four-eyed Rulathi, barked orders. Fall back, move to the ridge. Everyone sprinted, everyone except the human. Private Darian Holt tried to leap over a root the width of a starship bulkhead. Something cracked. Pain shot up his leg so violently he blacked out for a heartbeat. When he slammed onto the jungle floor, he knew instantly his right leg was broken. The Crowan screeched closer. "Go," he shouted. "I'll slow you down." Ravis hesitated for half a second too long for Holt's liking before ordering the others to fall back. "We will return with reinforcements." "Hold as long as you can, copy," Holt said, aiming his rifle with gritted teeth. He watched them disappear into the foliage, leaving him beneath orange-leafed canopies and the approaching death cries of the Crowan pack. Most species would consider that abandonment, betrayal even. Holt considered it a challenge. Pain can wait, survival can't. Humans weren't built for finesse, not compared to the Rulathi or the four-legged Tezeri. But they were built for one thing: Viridian 6, respected above all else, refusal to die. Holt forced himself upright, leaning on a fallen branch. His leg throbbed in synchrony with his heartbeat, but he kept breathing slow and even. He'd trained for battlefield injuries. Besides, this wasn't the first bone he'd broken. He tore 2 straps from his pack, found a reasonably straight piece of root, and set a makeshift splint. He bit down on his sleeve, bracestand, snapped his leg back into alignment. He screamed, but quietly. Predators liked noise. Then he stood. The extraction point was 7 kilometers away, through a maze of cliffs, ravines, and bioluminescent marshes. The squad had a full head start, uninjured and carrying all the navigational gear. Holt had a broken leg, a half-charged rifle, and a moon that wanted him dead. He smirked. "Guess we'll see who gets there first. The jungle doesn't know humans." He hobbled forward, using the branch as a crutch, but he didn't move like prey. Holt moved with purpose, favoring the terrain's natural angles, reading the wind, marking the hostile calls of distant creatures. Hours passed. Twice he fought off ambushers, once a leech-like vine that tried to wrap his throat, once a 6-legged stalker that pounced from the canopy. The second he dispatched with a point-blank burst and a muttered, "Not today, buddy." By the 5th hour, he was sweating acid mist, his leg a numb slab of fire, his uniform torn and stained with alien fluids. He leaned against a mossy trunk, catching his breath. A chirp sounded from his wrist, calm, a weak, static-ridden beacon, the squad's emergency ping. He grinned. They're close, but that wasn't the surprising part. The beacon was behind him. He checked again. 3 pings, all the same direction. The squad hadn't reached extraction. They were lost. Humans don't get lost. Holt adjusted course without hesitation. Pain long since shoved into a mental drawer labeled "Deal with later." Following the faint beacons, he limped through a canyon of razor-leaf ferns and across a marsh that tried to dissolve his boots. Finally, he heard voices, panicked ones. Ravis's voice crackled through the clearing. "The map is corrupted. The ridge splits again here. We cannot contact command. The squad stood around a dead nav table, all of them showing the unmistakable posture of exhausted despair. Holt pushed through the brush, leaning heavily on his makeshift crutch. "You all look lost," he said casually. Every head snapped toward him. The Tezzeri medic gasped. "H. Holt, how are you walking?" "Badly," he replied, "but still faster than you, apparently." "But your leg still broken," he confirmed. "Now come on. Extractions east by northeast, about a kilometer. Winds coming from the sulfur flats, so you'll want to hug the ridge edge. Let's move." The squad stared at him as if he were some sort of mythical creature. Maybe he was. After all, they'd left him behind, and he still beat them to the extraction point. The squad fell into formation behind Holt, still stunned that the human bleeding, limping, and held together by sheer willpower had not only survived but navigated the jungle better than all of them combined. Lieutenant Ravis walked beside him, mandibles tight with something between guilt and awe. "You should not be standing," he said at last. "Trust me," Holt muttered, stepping over a tangle of glowing roots. "I'm very aware, but quitting wasn't an option, not when the extraction point was close, and not when his squad needed him." The jungle canopy thinned as they approached the ridgeline. Strange silver birds circled overhead, their metallic feathers scattering motes of light down onto the forest floor. It would have been beautiful if everything on the moon wasn't trying to kill them. Ravis pointed ahead. "According to your intuition, the landing zone should be just beyond this rise." "Not intuition," Holt said. "Human directional memory. We're good at it. But you did not have a map. Didn't need one." The alien squad exchanged uneasy looks. Humans were strange. "The moon has other plans." Just as they reached the ridge's crest, the ground trembled. Holt froze. "That's not good." From the valley below, a towering silhouette rose, cracking trees like matchsticks. 6 long limbs, each like a serrated branch, a mouth that split vertically down the center, eyes like molten pits. A thornback alpha, the apex predator of Viridian 6. The squad recoiled in terror. Ravis stumbled backward. The Tezzeri medics' spines flared in panic. "We cannot fight that," Ravis shouted. "It dismantled an entire armored platoon last year." The alpha's roar rolled across the jungle like thunder, knocking smaller creatures from the canopy. Holt exhaled. "Yeah," he said softly, "but we don't need to kill it. We just need it distracted." Ravis blinked. "Distracted by who?" Holt stared at the beast. "Me. A human calculates pain differently." He passed his rifle to Ravis. "Keep everyone moving. Extraction is less than a click east. If this goes well, you won't see that thing again. If it doesn't, you'll hear it." Ravis grabbed his arm. "Holt, you cannot outrun it. You cannot even run. Good thing I'm not planning to." Before they could protest, Holt shoved off his crutch and half limped, half stumbled down the ridge toward the alpha. His legs screamed with every step, his vision spotted with black edges, but he kept moving. Because humans had a strange biological flaw. Pain didn't always mean stop. Sometimes it meant focus. The plan only a human would attempt. The thornback alpha spotted him immediately, lowering its head with a hiss like steam escaping metal. "Hey," Holt yelled, waving both arms. "Over here, big guy." The monster charged. Trees shattered. The ground tore apart under its weight. Holt waited until the last possible second, then dove sideways, landing hard, almost passing out as his broken leg exploded with agony. The alpha missed, but only barely. Holt scrambled upright, using a vine-covered rock. That's it. Follow me. He limped toward a patch of unstable ground he decrossed earlier, thin crust covering a deep corrosive sinkhole. His squad would never have spotted it, but he had. Fun fact about humans: they notice things when they hurt. The Alpha lunged again, faster this time. Holt reached the edge of the thin ground and jumped, barely clearing it. The Alpha's weight hit the crust like a meteor. The jungle floor collapsed. The predator dropped with a furious screech, its massive frame sinking into the shimmering acid below. It thrashed, snapping trees as it fought to climb out, but the sinkhole pulled it deeper. Holt watched, breathing hard. Nature 1, monster 0. Then he collapsed. Extraction and realization. He woke. 2 voices. He's alive. Tend the fractures. Careful. Holt blinked awake aboard the dropship. The squad surrounded him, faces filled with disbelief and something else, respect. Ravis crouched beside the stretcher. Holt, you guided us, you saved us, and you defeated an alpha predator while barely able to stand. Holt swallowed, throat dry. Yeah, well, it wasn't my best day. Ravis placed a hand over his chest in the Rulithi gesture of honor. Human, we left you behind. Holt shrugged weakly. Then don't do it again. We won't. And after today, no one in the Directorate will ever think of humanity as fragile. Again, the engines hummed. The dropship lifted through the canopy, leaving the hostile moon behind. As Holt drifted back into sleep, he heard Ravis whisper to the others, "Next time, if a human says they can make it, believe them." And every alien in the squad nodded, because that day they learned a universal truth: you can leave a human behind, but they might still beat you there. The medbay lights aboard the extraction ship were soft and blue, meant to calm injured soldiers. Holt appreciated the thought, he really did, but the color made him drowsy, and the last thing he wanted was more sleep. He had already passed out twice. The medic, a tall insectoid, Syriae, named Vrixa, clattered around him with 4 arms, each doing something different. One scanning his vitals, another swapping bandages, a third preparing a nutrient drip. You should rest, Vrixa chittered sternly. I rested when I was unconscious, Holt replied. That count? Absolutely not. Ravis leaned against the doorway, arms folded. The commander wants to debrief us as soon as you're stabilized. Holt smirked. That might take a while. Vrixa's idea of stabilized means replacing half my bones. Vrixa clicked irritably. If I could, I would. The debrief that became a legend. 6 hours later, the squad was back aboard the dropship, eared, armed, and visibly uneasy. Holt stepped in last. His leg was still wrapped, still aching, but Vrixa had repaired it with a combination of bone-fusing gel, splints, and threats of bodily harm if he overexerted it. He fully intended to overexert it. Ravis greeted him with a nod. You are cleared for duty. Not even a little, Holt said, settling into his seat. Let's go. The engines roared to life. Their objective: descend back into the nightmare of Viridian 6 and reach the buried structure before whatever ancient machine was awakening decided it wanted new toys. Return to the killing moon. The dropship pierced the clouds. Lightning crackled across the sky, as though the planet itself remembered Holt and was irritated he was back. The moment they landed, the jungle greeted them with harsh familiarity: thick, acidic fog, alien bird screeches, and the distant thump of creatures far too large. Tezzeri medic Vrixa swept her antennae anxiously. I do not like this. Everything sounds wrong, She wasn't imagining it. The forest was quieter than before, much quieter. Predators are hiding, Holt murmured. Means something scarier's walking around. Ravis glanced at him. You say that with such calmness. I've lived on Earth. This is Tuesday. Into the heart of the ruin. Following the pulse wave readings, the squad moved deeper until they reached a cliff edge, overlooking a sinkhole massive, jagged, and glowing faintly with unnatural blue light. The structure beneath had partially unearthed itself. Metal arches and pillars jutted out from below, humming with a rhythmic vibration that resonated in their teeth. It wasn't just waking, it was stretching. Ravis checked his scanner. Energy levels rising. That machine is activating subsurface components. Holt crouched, scanning the edges. There's a path down, narrow but usable. Vrixa exhaled. Lovely. Falling to our deaths is now optional. Holt grinned. It always was. They descended. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Not the organic cold of shade, but the engineered cold of machinery that had been asleep for millennia. Finally, they reached the exposed hull. It was massive, towering above them, like the wall of a spaceship fused with the terrain. Strange glyphs covered its surface. Ravis whispered, "This architecture predates known civilization by hundreds of thousands of years." Holt placed a hand on the metal. A ripple of light shot across it. The ground shook. Something inside the ruin responded. Contact. A grinding sound echoed from a massive doorway ahead as two colossal panels slid open, revealing an interior chamber bathed in pulsating blue, and at the center, a shape, suspended, humanoid in outline, but larger, 3 meters tall, with limbs built from interlocking plates of star metal. Its body glowed with ancient circuitry. Vrixa stepped back. What is that? Ravis's eyes widened. A Sentinel-class construct, old as the Assembly Wars. Those machines were designed to protect or destroy. Holt squinted. Anyone else notice it's looking at us? The machine's head slowly turned. Lights inside its eye sockets flickered from dormant blue to active red. Oh good, Holt muttered, the evil robot setting. The Sentinel dropped from its suspension frame and landed on the chamber floor with a thundering crash. Metal claws extended, the air vibrated, and then it spoke. Human detected. The squad froze. Holt pointed at himself. Me? Why me? The machine stepped forward. Designated priority unit. Human. Ravis snapped his rifle into position. Holt, why does the ancient murder construct care about the machine? Cut him off. Human restore. Human reconnect. Human required. Holt blinked. What? The Sentinel took another step, towering over them. Human bio key detected. Access protocols reinitializing. Vrixa whisper screeched. What does that mean? Holt raised both hands. Look, I have no idea what you think I am, but I promise the only thing I've reinitialized lately is my breakfast. The machine's eye lights flared brighter. You will follow. Ravis braced his weapon. He will not. The Sentinel's gaze snapped toward Ravis. Non-human interference. Denied. Holt stepped between them because, of course he did. Okay, let's slow down. He glared up at the massive construct. Start explaining. Why me? Why humans? What is this place? The Sentinel paused. Its red lights dimmed to a neutral white. Humans. Original builders. Silence. Not the good kind. The holy crap, everything we know is wrong kind, Ravis whispered. Impossible. Vrixa shook her head. Humans evolved millennia after this structure was built. The Sentinel tilted its head. Humans returned too late. Systems unstable. Hostile forces approaching. Holt rubbed his temples. What hostile forces? The entire ruin shook violently, dust raining from the ceiling. The sentinel answered. They followed you from the surface, and then the chamber doors behind them buckled under the force of something enormous, something alive, something angry. The chamber doors shook again, hard enough to send cracks spiderwebbing across the metal. Dust rained from above. Something clawed at the other side, screeching with a sound that vibrated in bone rather than ears. Vrix's spines snapped upright. That is not from this moon. Ravis aimed his plasma rifle at the trembling doorway. Sentinel, clarify what is approaching. The ancient machine's eyes burned bright white. Hostile classification. The harrowed Holt blinked. That name is not reassuring. The sentinel continued, its voice like grinding stone. Extragalactic predators consume biomass, corrupt machines, eradicate builders. Ravis's mandibles clicked sharply. You mean they were responsible for wiping out the civilization that built this place? Affirmative. Holt frowned. Then why are they on this moon? The sentinel turned to him. They follow human presence. Humans are the last key. The squad stared at him exactly the way Holt hated, as if he knew something he didn't. He raised both hands. Look, I'm just a guy who breaks bones when he jumps wrong. I'm not a crash. The chamber door burst inward. Black, chitinous limbs forced their way through the opening. A long, serrated shape squeezed between the warped metal and let out a modulated shriek like a dying starship. A harrowed, its skin rippled with oily patterns. Semi-liquid tendrils extended from its body, dripping corrosive fluids that hissed upon contact with the floor, and its many eyes locked instantly onto Holt. Oh, come on, he muttered. Why is it always me? The first wave opened fire. Ravis roared. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds slammed into the harrowed creature, but its body absorbed most of the shots like mud absorbing rain. Then it lunged. The squad scattered. Holt threw himself sideways as claws sliced through the air where his head had been. Ravis fired point blank into its mouth. The creature recoiled, giving Vrixa enough time to yank Holt to his feet. Move, human, she screeched. Your leg is not healed enough for a second. Harrowed tore through the wall. Vrix's voice cut off in terror. Nope, nope, absolutely not. The sentinel stepped forward. Its entire body split open like shifting armor, revealing glowing cores beneath. You will not touch the builder key. A wave of pure kinetic force blasted outward, hurling the harrowed against the far wall so hard the stone cratered. The squad stared. Holt whistled. Okay, that's new. Retreat into the deep. More screeching echoed from beyond the hall's dozens, maybe hundreds. Ravis grabbed Holt's arm. We must move deeper. Sentinel, guide us. The ancient machine turned, extending an arm. A beam of light carved glowing symbols on the floor, forming a path. Follow. Core chamber is secure, for now. They sprinted after it. Holt, limping but keeping pace through adrenaline and sheer stubbornness. The ruin came alive as they ran. Lights pulsed overhead, walls shifted, hallways folded open like petals. The facility recognized Holt's DNA, responding to him, guiding him. Vrixa gasped. This place. It obeys you. Holt shook his head. I don't even obey me. Ravis paused as the walls rearranged around them. Human, you may be more connected to this place than you believe. Then a harrowed shriek erupted behind them. Time to move faster. The core chamber, they burst into a circular room the size of a starship hangar. The moment Holt crossed the threshold, the entire chamber lit up in cascading rings of white-blue energy. A massive central pedestal rose from the floor, shimmering with holographic projections. The sentinel spoke. "Human, place your hand on the interface." Holt backed up a step. "Listen, big guy, honored, but I don't know what that thing does." "Activates defense grid, repairs memory archive, initiates creator link." Ravis stared. "Creator link," Vrixa hissed. "Holt, if you touch that, you might vaporize, or explode and vaporize." From the hallway behind them came a rising tide of screeches. Holt looked at the pedestal, then at the door, then at his squad. "I'll risk exploding." He stepped forward and placed a trembling hand onto the surface. The chamber reacted instantly. Energy surged up his arm like a jolt of ice and fire combined. His vision flickered, the room dissolved, and then he saw the flash stars, worlds, ancient humans, walking with machines, not primitive, but advanced beyond anything modern humanity had imagined. He saw builders create networks, constructs, citadels across galaxies. He saw the harrowed invading, devouring civilizations, corrupting everything they touched. And he saw the ancient humans' last act. They hid themselves, erased their presence, buried their technology, left behind keys encoded into their distant descendants. Modern humans. The flash ended. Holt collapsed to his knees, gasping. Ravis rushed to him. "Holt, what happened?" He swallowed. "We're not the first." He looked up, pale and shaking. "Humans used to build things like this." And then the harrowed horde reached the chamber doorway. The final battle was seconds away. The harrowed screeched as they flooded the entrance, shadowy limbs, serrated jaws, and bodies that shimmered like living oil. The chamber's energy fields flickered as dozens of corrupted creatures slammed into the barrier, testing its strength. The sentinel planted itself between the squad and the swarm, armor plating locking into place with deep metallic clicks. "They breach soon. Builder key must be protected." Holt pushed himself to his feet, vision still swimming from the flash of ancient memories. His heart hammered like a drum. Not from fear, though there was plenty of that, but from the weight of what he had just seen. Humans. Humans once built empires across the stars. Not the soft, small species the galaxy thought they were. Something older, something greater. Ravis gripped Holt's arm. "You saw something. Your eyes were unfocused. What did the interface show you?" Holt opened his mouth, then shut it as the chamber shook again. "Later," he said. "If we survive," Vrixa hissed as a harrowed claw punched partially through the barrier. "That is not a guarantee." The sentinel's voice boomed, activating internal defense grid. Energy surged through the walls, panels opened, turrets unfolded like blooming flowers, silent, elegant, lethal. Then the sentinel pointed one massive metallic finger at Holt. "Command them." Holt blinked. "Excuse me?" "They will not obey me. Only the builder key." Vrixa groaned. "Of course. Why not?" Ancient deathmesh sheens. Listen to the injured human who should be in a hospital. Ravis shoved a rifle into Holt's hands. "Do what you can. We will hold the line. The first wave breaks." A thundering crack tore through the chamber as the first harrowed forced its way through, half melted by the barrier, but still vicious. It lunged straight for Holt. Vrixa screamed. Ravis fired. The sentinel moved, but Holt reacted first. He thrust his hand toward the creature without thinking. "Fire," he shouted. The turrets responded instantly. A barrage of white-blue plasma erupted from the walls, shredding the lunging, harrowed midair. It dissolved into sizzling fragments before it even hit the floor. Holt stared at his own hand. "Okay, that's new." Ravis looked at him with newfound fear and awe. Holt, you just commanded this entire facility. Holt swallowed.
Yeah.
And we're going to need it, because the first wave wasn't the last, not even close. Dozens more harrowed poured through the rupture, their bodies twisting unnaturally as they forced themselves into the chamber. Turret's left flank, target cluster at the door. Holt shouted. The defense systems obeyed instantly, swinging and firing with mechanical precision. Close secondary shutters, metal barriers slammed down behind the primary force fields, slowing the swarm's advance. Redirect power from west conduits to front shields. Energy surged through the floor, brightening the barrier just as it began to weaken. Vrixa stared. It is as if the facility was waiting for you. Holt didn't answer. He could feel it, the connection between him and the ancient systems. Not telepathy, not control, more like recognition and urgent need. The harrowed break, through a massive impact, hit the barrier far heavier than anything before. The entire chamber trembled. Lights flickered. Ravis snarled. That one is larger. A second strike, a third. The barrier shattered in a burst of sparks. A hulking, harrowed alpha stepped through the smoke, twice the size of the others, with armored plating and claws long enough to cut through steel. Ravis fired, Vrixa fired. The sentinel even moved to intercept. None of it slowed the alpha. It charged straight at Holt. The sentinel lunged, but it was too slow. Holt didn't think. He didn't strategize. He simply acted. Lock the floor, grid, now. The chamber obeyed before the words even finished leaving his mouth. The floor beneath the alpha flashed with geometric symbols, then discharged a massive electric surge. The alpha convulsed, screeching. It staggered. It collapsed. Holt's knees buckled from the shockwave and Ravis caught him before he fell. Easy, human, easy. Holt sucked air. Dizzy. I'm fine. I'm fine. Behind them, the harrowed hesitated. For the first time, they hesitated. The sentinel stepped forward. They fear you. They recognize the builder line. Holt shook his head. I'm not a builder. I'm not whatever they think. Boom. The entire ruin shook violently. A crack split the ceiling. Dust poured down. The sentinel's eyes blazed bright. The core is destabilizing. The harrowed have corrupted external networks. Ravis grabbed his weapon, meaning what? The sentinel turned toward Holt. This facility will collapse. We must evacuate. But the builder key must retrieve the memory core first. Holt blinked. Wait, retrieve what? Behind them, the harrowed began charging again. The sentinel loomed over Holt, pointing toward a sealed chamber door on the far side of the room. The last record of your true origin. Holt's blood ran cold. The squad stared. Ravis whispered, human. Whatever this place is, whatever it knows, it's tied to you. The harrowed roared. The ruin groaned. The mission changed. They had to reach the memory core before the harrowed or the collapsing megastructure consumed them all.